You get the call or the text or the message that changes everything. And then, in most modern lives, something strange happens next. You go back to an empty apartment. You close the door behind you. You sit with it, mostly alone, maybe with your phone open to a group chat that's gone quiet because nobody knows what to type. That silence isn't normal. Grief was never built to work this way. Picture a small camp a very long time ago, the moment word spreads that someone has died. Nobody hands the loss to one person and quietly backs away. The whole group moves toward it at once, together, without anyone having to organize it. People wail out loud, without a trace of embarrassment. Someone throws more wood on the fire than usual, because tonight nobody is sleeping through this alone. Bodies sit pressed shoulder to shoulder for hours, and the one thing nobody in that camp is ever forced to do is face the fact that someone is gone by themselves. At a place called Shanidar Cave, in what's now northern Iraq, archaeologists uncovered Neanderthal burials tens of thousands of years old, laid out with what looks like real care, some resting near clusters of ancient pollen. What that pollen actually means is still argued over. But even the argument says something worth sitting with. Something close to human was already treating death as an event that deserved ritual, deserved witnesses, deserved more hands than just one pair. You don't have to go back that far to see the same pattern. Ancient Mesopotamian mourning customs called for loud, collective wailing that could stretch on for days. Work stopped completely. Neighbors showed up without being asked because staying home would have looked like abandonment, not manners. Grief, back then, was loud on purpose. A quiet house was a house nobody was watching. For most of human history, losing someone was never a private event. It happened in public, stitched directly into how the group functioned. Somebody sat beside you when you couldn't speak. Somebody cooked when you couldn't stand up long enough to feed yourself. And somebody said the dead person's name out loud, again and again, so they weren't erased the moment their heart stopped. Even the small daily things got covered without anyone asking. Someone else kept the fire going. Someone else watched the children, so the loss had room to actually be felt instead of just managed around. The tribe absorbed the loss the way a body absorbs an injury, together spreading the weight, so no one person had to carry the whole thing by themselves. Now picture a modern death. Someone gets the news at their desk, maybe on a lunch break, and has to keep working anyway because the deadline hasn't heard what happened. 3 days of bereavement leave, if the job even offers that much, and then a full return to normal, as though grief comes with a fixed expiration date, like a parking permit. They drive home by themselves. They sit in a quiet apartment that used to hold 2 people and now holds 1. A friend sends a single message. "So sorry for your loss." A coworker asks how you're doing, once, gently, and never brings it up again. Not out of coldness, just because nobody ever taught them what comes next. Meanwhile, life keeps moving around a person whose entire world just stopped. People haven't stopped caring. That's not what happened here. What actually disappeared is the structure that used to force people to show up, whether they meant to or not. There's no fire everyone gathers around automatically anymore. No shared roof, no communal meal, nothing physically pulling a whole group toward the person who's hurting. Caring turned optional and private instead of automatic and shared, and somewhere in that shift, grief slipped straight through the gap. It would be easy to say the old way was simply better. That's not quite true either. Ancient grief also meant no real distance from the pain ever, no space to fall apart quietly before facing anyone, no room to process a loss on your own timeline if that's genuinely what you needed. Whatever else modern life took away, it handed people something real in return. The ability to grieve at your own pace without an entire camp watching every private second of it unfold. Even so, something got left behind in that exchange. Somewhere back there, grief worked like an actual fire circle, pulling people in close simply because a death demanded that of everyone nearby. The fire's gone now, and people grieving today are usually left waiting for someone to remember to check on them, instead of just being surrounded, no asking required. That's the real difference sitting underneath all of it. Ancient grief came with a built-in crowd. Modern grief comes with a phone that stays silent unless somebody happens to think of you. The instinct to gather, to sit close, to keep saying a name out loud so it doesn't vanish, never actually left. It's still sitting there waiting for a reason to be used the way it was designed. If this changes how you look at the people around you right now, reach out to one of them today. Not because they asked, because that used to be the entire point of standing this close to each other in the first place.